10 minutes before the ceremony, my groom was in the dressing room kissing my maid of honor. The door wasn't fully closed. I stood at the far end of the corridor, the veil box I hadn't had time to open still dangling from my hand, calmly listening to the broken gasps drifting out and to Vivian's trembling, choked-up voice. "Ethan, are you really marrying her today?" After a short silence came the man's low laugh. "Let's get the wedding over with first. Then what am I?" Vivian sounded even more aggrieved. "You swore you loved me." Ethan was clearly placating her, his voice lowered, carrying the same tenderness I once knew by heart. "Be good, don't make a scene. I still need the Vance resources, her father's contacts, the investments, those joint projects. None of it can stop now. When the wedding's done, I'll come clean to her. After that, everything you want, I'll give you." The air went still for 2 beats. Then came the even more intimate, even more sickening sound of kissing. My fingertips tightened fraction by fraction, the corner of the box bit deep into my palm. Strangely, I didn't feel as shattered as I'd expected. Maybe because when you're truly broken, you just go numb. The corridor lights were almost blinding. Beneath my feet the carpet was thick and soft, the hush around me so complete it felt unreal. 10 minutes ago makeup had been gushing that I looked radiant, the most beautiful bride she'd ever seen in a wedding gown. Half an hour ago the officiant had laughed backstage during rehearsal, saying Casey's hands were shaking from nerves because he loved me so much. Last night Ethan had held me and whispered, "Serena, tomorrow you'll be the happiest bride in the world." Looking back, the irony is brutal. Suddenly the rustle of fabric came from inside. I stepped sideways into the shadow of the corner. The next second Vivian walked out of the dressing room. She wore the pale pink maid of honor dress I'd personally chosen for her. The corners of her eyes still carried the flush of what had just happened, her lipstick was smudged. Yet when she glanced in the mirror she calmly lowered her head to touch up her makeup, as if nothing had occurred. As if in a few minutes she would still take my arm, stand beside me, and wish me happiness with a smile. Watching her, I almost wanted to laugh. All through college, then into our working years, she loved trailing after me, collecting whatever I discarded, dresses I no longer wore, bags I tired of, even ex-boyfriends I'd split with. She'd secretly reach out to every one of them. I'd always told myself it was just her insecurity, her need to cling. Only today did I realize what she wanted wasn't my cast-offs. What she wanted was anything that was mine. Her footsteps faded. I stayed where I was, lowered my head, opened my phone, tapped record, then saved the clip to the cloud. My fingers were perfectly steady, so steady I surprised myself. The screen glowed, reflecting today's version of me. Hair pinned up, veil still waiting, makeup exquisite, wedding gown snowy white, exactly like the heroine about to reach the happy ending in every love story. Too bad my script isn't a fairy tale. I opened contacts and paused on the top name for 2 seconds. Jamie. 3 months ago, after a dinner, he'd warned me. "Ethan isn't the man you think he is." Back then I'd written it off as provocation. After all, outsiders knew he and Ethan had never gotten along. One was the rising titan of private equity, the other a startup founder about to climb higher on the back of this marriage and my family's resources. They were never on the same track. I'd even defended Ethan. Thinking about it now, I was an idiot. I stared at the name, tapped out a text. "Come to the venue. I thought for a moment, then added 4 more words. "Right now, perfect timing. The instant it sent, I lifted my hand and pushed open that door. Inside, Ethan had his back to me, knotting his tie. Hearing the sound, he turned. Not a flicker of panic, only a smile as he walked over. "Serena, what are you doing here? Didn't I tell you to wait in the makeup room?" He reached to touch my face. I tilted my head slightly aside. My gaze slid to the smear of lipstick at the corner of his mouth. The last sliver of warmth in my chest iced over. Still, I smiled, gentle, quiet, composed, exactly as usual. "Wanted to see if you were ready." Ethan sensed nothing amiss. He pressed a kiss to my forehead, voice as tender as ever. "Of course I'm ready, after all. Today I'm marrying you." I stared at the face I'd loved for 2 years and found it hilariously unfamiliar. I spoke softly. "Ethan, the wedding has to go on, right?" Probably thinking I was just nervous, he laughed and gave my hand a squeeze. "Of course. Everyone's here, you're the star. Getting stage fright?" I lowered my eyes to the hand enclosing mine, long fingers, warm skin, once the source of countless nights' false security. Now it only felt filthy. Slowly I drew my hand away, lifted my gaze, lips still curved. No. I just suddenly feel. This wedding is going to be spectacular. Ethan froze, as if he hadn't quite processed my meaning. I offered no explanation. Gathering my skirt, I turned and walked out. The moment the door shut, my phone vibrated. I looked down. Jamie had replied with 2 words. Here. At that instant I stared at the screen and laughed. Ethan still had no idea. Yes, the wedding would proceed as scheduled, only the groom might not be him. When I reached the bridal suite, it was full of people. Makeup, photographer, the officiant's assistant, my circle of maids all running through final checks. One adjusted my train, another mouthed vows, someone else laughed saying I looked relaxed, not nervous at all. Vivian was there too, right beside me, bouquet wrapping in hand. The moment I entered, she hurried over with a smile. Serena, where did you go? I've been looking everywhere. Her eyes swept over me as naturally as breathing, as if confirming I'd noticed nothing. I looked at her and realized acting really is a gift. If I hadn't heard every word with my own ears, I'd never believe my best friend could wear the dress I'd picked, turn around, and kiss my groom. I smiled, tone unchanged. Went to fetch something. Oh. She exhaled in visible relief, then looped her arm through mine affectionately. I knew it. You can't disappear today. When you walk out there, you're going to slay everyone. She leaned in close, her familiar perfume suddenly nauseating, because 10 minutes earlier I'd smelled the exact scent on Ethan's shirt collar. Some betrayals are flaunted right under your nose, you just refuse to see them. Serena. She gave my hand a small shake. What is it? Nerves. I came back to myself, stared at that innocent, gentle face, and unexpectedly reached to tuck a loose strand of hair behind her ear. She startled. I murmured with a smile, nothing. Just realized you look pretty today too. Panic flickered across her eyes before she lowered her head with a bashful little laugh. Stop it. You're the beauty of the day. The most beautiful, yes. And probably the most ridiculous. I said nothing more, only looked at my reflection. At that moment I understood clearly. Today's wedding isn't just Ethan and Vivian's little test, not just a sneaky tryst they think they can hide. It's a chessboard. A board they plotted long ago, step on me, devour my family's resources, then kick me aside. So why should I retreat in tears? If anyone leaves, it should be them. When the bridal march sounded, I took my father's arm and stepped onto the white rose aisle. Crystal chandeliers blazed overhead, guests filled every seat, champagne and gardenias perfumed the air. The officiant stood on the dais, voice warm and thrilled, painting every romantic hue a wedding should have. Today we gather to witness the most important moment in the lives of Serena and Ethan. Applause rose. I lifted my eyes to Ethan at the far end. Immaculate black tux, perfect posture, gentle brows, still the man many would swear was trustworthy for life. If I hadn't seen what I saw 10 minutes ago, I'd probably have fallen for it again. He gazed back with what even looked like emotion, as though the bride walking toward him truly was his great love. I only found it absurd. My father glanced at me, voice lowered, laughing. Nervous? I shook my head. Not at all. And I wasn't, because the instant I'd heard I still need her family's resources, this had stopped being a wedding. It had become a public execution, except the one led to the block would not be me. The carpet stretched on. Each measured step sent silk sweeping across the marble, the veil shimmering under the lights. Guests watched, phones raised, whispering how perfect Ethan and I looked together, how our road from dating to altar had been long but worth it. I kept smiling, even I hadn't known you could act this well when pushed past every limit. At the steps Ethan extended his hand, his palm was as warm as ever, his compliment, "You're breathtaking," identical to rehearsal. I curved my lips slightly. Dad placed my hand in his, eyes shining. "Ethan, I'm trusting Serena to you." Ethan nodded solemnly. "Sir, you can rest assured." I almost laughed out loud. "Sir." So fluent, though he'd lose the right to use that word very soon. The ritual rolled on. The officiant delivered the usual pretty lines: first meeting, companionship, promises. On the giant screen our curated photos cycled: birthday candles, vacations, sunsets, seaside hand-holding, every frame looked real. Only now did I understand. Photos lie, vows lie, people lie. The officiant turned to Ethan with a smile. Ethan, please recite your vows to Serena. Every gaze locked on him. He took the microphone, gazed soulfully at me, voice warm and low. Serena, the first time I saw you, I knew you were the one I wanted to spend my life with. You let me believe in you, walk with you, and you showed me what home really means. I promise, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, I will love you, stay faithful to you, stand by your side forever. Several guests teared up. My mother quietly dabbed her eyes. I listened to each word and found nothing but comedy, especially the faithful part. The officiant nodded, satisfied, and turned to me. Now, Serena, it's your turn. Wait. I lifted the mic, cutting him off. A hush exploded over the hall. The officiant froze, smile stiffening. Ethan's eyes flicked to me, a trace of confusion surfacing. Calmly I took the microphone, turned, and looked out at the sea of guests. Every expectation, every curiosity, every hint of unease was right where I wanted it. I let my gaze rest first on Vivian. She stood beside the stage, maid of honor dress immaculate, holding the ring box. When she felt my stare, she instinctively straightened, panic darting across her face before vanishing. I smiled gently. Vivian, why don't you come a little closer? Gasps rippled. Vivian herself froze, her smile nearly cracking. What? I spoke as if discussing the weather. I said, you matter today too. Step nearer. Ethan's expression finally shifted. Serena, what are you doing? Ignoring him, I lifted the remote toward the tech booth. Please switch the screen for me. The technician glanced at the officiant and Ethan, uncertain. I gave a soft laugh. It's my wedding. Showing something more interesting isn't too much to ask, is it? Murmurs swelled. Ethan stepped forward, reaching for the mic. Serena, stop fooling around, let's finish the. Don't touch me. I tilted my head, voice light as frost. He froze, and at last realization crashed over his face. Too late. The giant screen went black, then the dressing room footage filled it, faces unobscured, audio uncut. Ethan pinning Vivian against the door, Vivian's tearful, are you really marrying her? Ethan's murmur, I still need the Vance resources. After it's over I'll tell her. The hall went stone silent, even the background music felt jarring. 3 seconds later the room detonated. What's happening? That's backstage just now. Groom and maid of honor? Disgusting. At their own wedding. Exclamations, curses, camera shutters surged like a tide. My mother shot to her feet, face white. My father's expression went thunderous. Vivian's complexion drained, the ring box slipped and clattered. Ethan lost all composure, lunging to kill the feed. Turn it off, now. But the clip rolled on. Vivian sobbed, what about her? Ethan chuckled, it's just a wedding, she'll never know. Someone in the crowd swore aloud. Scumbag, using her family and cheating with the best friend? The maids know better, looks so sweet, steals the fiancé? Photographers forgot the ceremony. Every lens swung to the stage. The officiant stood paralyzed, his professional smile fracturing. At the center of the storm I felt eerily calm. Vivian finally snapped, rushing at me with reddened eyes. Serena, it's not like that, listen to me. I sidestepped. She stumbled, nearly sprawling. Looking down at her, I sighed. Explain what? How you slept with my fiancé, or when you plan to take my place? Her mouth opened, no sound. Ethan's shock turned to rage. You knew all along? Yes. I met his stare, lips lifting. Otherwise, why would I still be standing here? He bristled, cheeks mottled. There's got to be a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? I almost laughed. Your own words, your own actions, now on screen, and you want to talk misunderstandings? Words failed him. The evidence crushed every denial. The guests' roster held both families and every key business partner. His precious reputation now lay in shreds, yet that was still far from enough. I raised the microphone, facing the crowd, voice steady. Ladies and gentlemen, apologies for the spectacle. Still, since the wedding has started, we shouldn't simply call it off. Silence snapped back, every gaze returned to me. Ethan's brows knit, unsure what I meant. Vivian lifted her tear-streaked face, bewildered. I smiled, slow, deliberate. So, of course the wedding will continue. A beat. My eyes brushed Ethan's tightening features. Only, the groom will be changed. The hall went quieter than before. You could hear breathing. Everyone wondered if they'd misheard, even my parents. The officiant's mouth opened, no sound. This was beyond any script. Ethan recovered first, face livid. Serena, have you lost your mind? Lost. I was calm. The one who lost his mind is you. 10 minutes before the ceremony you kissed my maid of honor in the dressing room, planning to keep bleeding my family dry. Who's insane? Whispers ignited. She's actually swapping grooms. Who'd dare step in? Brutal, though he deserves it. Ethan hissed, Serena, making a scene helps no one. Think of the fallout. The tired sermon. The victim must stay classy, cover the abuser's shame. I studied him and felt only scorn. One definite upside, I no longer have to marry trash. His face contorted. Vivian clutched his sleeve, sobbing, tell her it isn't true. Isn't true? I asked pleasantly. Vivian, did I imagine your line, are you really marrying her? She stood frozen. I turned away, lifted the mic to my lips, and looked past the crowd to the banquet doors. Jamie. My voice carried, clear and unhurried. The cast is complete. How much longer are you planning to watch? A hush, then the double doors swung open. Light poured in, framing the silhouette of a tall man in a black suit, shoulders razor straight, stride unhurried, eyes cool as frost. Jamie. Gasps swept the room. It's really him? Ethan's always feared the Cameron connection, now his finished. Ethan's face, already pale, went a sickly grey. Jamie, he ground out. What are you doing here? Jamie ignored him. He walked the length of the aisle, gaze skimming dispassionately over Ethan and Vivian, finally settling on me. In his usually glacial eyes there was a softness only I could see. I thought you'd make me wait a bit longer. I felt an unexpected steadiness. Timing's perfect now. He stepped onto the dais and took his place beside me. The significance silenced the hall. This wasn't a spectator, this was a takeover. Ethan lurched forward. Serena, you set this whole farce up, didn't you? You two planned to humiliate me. I didn't bother with words. I swung my hand and slapped him hard. The crack rang through the ballroom. Ethan's head snapped sideways, a red print blooming. That, I said clearly, is for treating marriage like a balance sheet. And for milking my family while bedding my best friend. You were sure I knew nothing, so let me inform you. From the moment you said I still need her resources, this wedding ceased to be mine. It became yours. I turned to Jamie. Dylan, I require a groom. Another collective inhale. Jamie's gaze steadied on me. A faint, almost grateful curve touched his mouth. He accepted my bouquet, voice low and even, as though agreeing to the simplest business clause. Taylor, shall we proceed with the ceremony? The hall erupted, not in screams, in a roar of voices no one could stifle. Because he hadn't said calm down, hadn't said let's leave, he'd asked whether to continue. That single question signed Ethan's death warrant in every social register that mattered. I met Jamie's eyes and felt the fist around my heart finally unclench. Continue, I said. And Ethan lost control for good. Serena. He lunged forward, hand already reaching to grab me. You dare. But before his fingers could touch me, Jamie caught his wrist in one sharp motion. A faint twist of Jamie's hand and Ethan's face went white. Jamie stepped between us, brows level, voice like chipped ice. Riley, you've already sunk this low and you still want to lay a hand on her? Ethan clenched his teeth. This is between her and me. Stay out of it. It was, Jamie answered coolly. The moment you held someone else in that lounge behind her back, it stopped being only yours. Anne. He paused, letting his gaze skate over Ethan's bluish pallor. Right now the least of your worries is this wedding. What you should be scared of is the partnership that needs the Vance signature to release funds. After today, consider it dead. The words crashed over Ethan like a muffled thunderclap. His pupils shrank to pinpricks. That was the nightmare he'd dreaded most. And it proved, louder than any vow, that my earlier crack about still needing his family's resources had been no empty threat. He didn't love me. He loved everything the Vance name could give him. Ethan stared, the color leaking from his cheeks. You knew all along. His voice cracked. You and he, you planned this together. I looked at him and let out the softest laugh. Ethan, who do you think you are? You really believe I'd set a trap in advance for you? I asked him here today not because we ever colluded, I said, lifting my gaze, calm and razor-sharp, but because, beside garbage like you, Jamie at least resembles a human being. The hall fell absolutely silent. Ethan's face was past ugly now. Vivian finally snapped, rushing forward in tears. Serena, you can't do this. How am I supposed to show my face after today? I almost laughed out loud. How to show your face? I turned to her. Vivian, when you crawled into my fiancé's bed, did you ever worry about showing your face? She sobbed harder, mascara striping her cheeks, nothing left of the poised maid who'd stood beside me pretending we were sisters. I felt no pity. This wasn't a mistake. It was premeditated, every step calculated to steal what was mine, to climb over me, to turn me into the day's biggest joke. Fine. Today she could swallow that joke whole. I lifted the microphone again and faced the guests, every last one struck mute. Apologies, everyone. The program has changed. Still, since you're all here, the trip isn't wasted. At the very least you'll witness one thing. I paused and glanced at Jamie. He stood at my side, shoulders squared, sure I wouldn't retreat. In that instant I wanted Ethan to see that I didn't have to settle for him, see that I wouldn't collapse without him, see that the one thing he dreaded most was about to happen in front of his eyes. So I slipped my hand through Jamie's arm. A collective gasp rippled through the sea of guests. In my wedding gown, beneath the stunned, gaping stares, I turned and walked back down the aisle with another man. Spotlights streamed down across my veil and train, illuminating Ethan's utterly shattered expression. I didn't look back, because at that moment I knew, after today, he would never stand beside me again. When Jamie and I reached the altar, the banquet hall was as hushed as if someone had hit mute. Only the camera shutters kept clicking. Every face in the guest seats wore shock, disbelief, and barely disguised thrill. Even soap opera directors wouldn't dare script this. The officiant stood sweating, cue cards crumpled in clammy fingers, obviously clueless what to do next. My father was first to recover, striding up the steps, face dark. Serena, he said low, are you certain? He wasn't asking about my feelings but the fallout. My stunt hadn't merely stripped the Sterling family of face, it had ripped open both families' reputations, partner expectations, future ties, everything laid bare. But I'd left myself no retreat. From the instant I'd overheard Ethan's syrupy whisper to Vivian in the lounge, I still need the Vance resources, I'd decided retreat was not an option. I met my father's eyes, voice steady. I'm certain. This wedding? Cancelled. But the show goes on. Dad studied me, flicked a glance at Jamie, then finally stepped back without another word. That half-step was answer enough. The audience read it at once. The Vance family stands with its daughter. No requests to endure, no lectures on the bigger picture, permission to overturn the entire spectacle. Ethan read it too, his complexion worsened. Uncle, don't call me that. Dad cut him off, icy. You've lost the right. Another wave of whispers surged through the room. Ethan went whiter, mouth opening on words that never came. Up on the platform I stared at the man I'd once pictured marrying and felt only ridicule. I used to praise his composure, his perfect measure of distance and warmth, maturity, I'd thought. Now I knew it was an act, every beat calculated. When I'd soften, when Dad would yield, how much the Vances would gift him post-wedding, when to pet me, when to reward Vivian. How could such a soul not be filthy? Serena. He inhaled hard, fighting to claw the situation back. You're emotional. We can talk in private, no need for a scene. Private? I almost laughed. Ethan, when you slept with my maid, where was your fondness for privacy? I didn't mean. Then what? Each word landed like a thrown stone. You expected me to play dumb until the vows were done, until you'd drained the Vance name dry, and only then throw my tantrum. Would that have been well behaved? His face twisted, because I'd nailed it. So had Vivian. She stood offstage, maid dress rumpled, face streaked, eyes swollen, yet somehow still the wounded heroine in her own head. I remembered college. She'd trail me, wear my cast-offs, dine at restaurants I'd slighted, caption her posts, not as great as everyone claims. I thought it insecurity. After graduation, it continued. I'd secure a project, she'd praise me, then secretly phone the team to siphon credit. I'd drop a brand, she'd declare it overrated. I'd dump a guy, she'd add him on social media, just friends. Anything I touched, she'd sniff after. I never minded, who needs to hoard leftovers to feel worthy? Only today did I realize she wasn't scavenging. She was hijacking, shamelessly, triumphantly. Vivian, I called. She jolted, tears quivering. Weren't you dying to stand in my shoes? I smiled thinly. Come up here. She blanched, shaking her head frantically. Serena, no, I was drunk, we lost control. Lost control? I raised my phone. Was this lost control too? On the screen, another folder I'd backed up screenshots, not video. I hadn't planned to release them yet, but why grant breathing room? I passed the phone to Dad. Screencast it. This time no one stopped us. The banquet projector blazed again, chat logs popping like fireworks, timeline stretching back 6 months. Sender, Ethan. Receiver, Vivian. Her dad's already softened. After the wedding the cooperation is bulletproof. Bear it a bit longer, don't expose us. Once I secure the investment and the project, I'll handle her. You want a title, right? I'll give you one. She trusts me more than I hoped, so easy to keep sweet. Final message sent last night. After tomorrow's ceremony, don't make a scene. The hall wasn't quiet, it was speechless. Someone cursed under his breath, someone else sprang up shouting, shameless. Even the sterling elders' row dissolved into chaos. Ethan's mother swayed, ashen, mouthing, impossible. Impossible? I recalled her clutching my hands 2 months ago. Serena, having you for a daughter-in-law is the Sterling family's blessing. I'll treat you like my own girl. Warmth, all an act. Ethan stared, panic finally sparking in his eyes. Chat logs couldn't be excused as impulse or alcohol. They were blueprints. You investigated me, he rasped. Funny, I replied. You can con and calculate, but I can't collect receipts. Ethan gaped, robbed of righteousness. When did you start digging? He rasped. From the day Jamie tipped me off, I replied. Both he and Vivian twitched. Ethan swung his glare to Jamie, venomous. As expected, it was you. Jamie barely tilted his head. Riley, you're not that important. Your tricks were never hard to trace. A snicker floated from the crowd, small, but a slap to a man whose religion was appearances. No, no. Vivian lunged for my skirt. Serena, listen, he seduced me. He said you're too proud, too strong, that he suffocated. Vivian. Ethan barked. She flinched, then screamed back, it's true. You said marrying her feels like being adopted by the Vance family. You said you'd had enough of her superiority, that only I understand you. Hearing it barely stung anymore. I finally understood why scavengers clutch rot. They don't want love, they want worship, ego padding, resources with a side of adoration. Ethan never wanted a wife. He wanted 2 women holding him on a pedestal. Greedy, so greedy. Can't breathe. I echoed, laughing. Did I force you to start your company? Did I chase you? You pocketed the deals I introduced, then blamed me for being too capable. You bathed in Vance prestige, then whined it felt like adoption. You don't choke on air, you want money, dignity, and the universe orbiting you. Too bad, you're not worth it. The word worthless struck like a hammer. Ethan's face went ashen because everyone recognized the portrait. Jamie lifted a hand, adjusting my veil back from my cheek, a small, steady shield. Enough, he murmured. Any more and our ears need sanitizing. I glanced at him, warmth prickled under my ribs. From first to last he'd never begged me to calm down, never told me to save face, never lectured from a pedestal, he'd simply stood on my side. That was enough. I faced the chaotic crowd. Apologies for taking your time. Still, every guest deserves a finale. I fixed my eyes on Ethan. Effective now, my engagement to Casey is over. Every cooperation, fund, and resource funneled to the Sterling family through that engagement dies tonight. Another thunderclap, this one financial. The guests linked to the deal woke with a jolt. I could almost hear the Sterling elders swallow their tongues. Ethan's voice cracked. Serena, you can't. I cut in. And I already have. You should never have targeted me. Within 2 hours, the stolen lounge footage and on-site clips trended nationwide. Hashtags exploded. #courtgroom made cheating, #bride switched groom, #Ethan marriage scam, #Vivian stole bestiesfiance. The sentence "I still need the Vance resources" became the most reposted punchline. I sat in the penthouse suite, veil off, phone vibrating non-stop, congratulations, concern, gossip, strangers texting you okay? I answered none. Okay was irrelevant, I'd flipped the board and won. The shower shut off. Jamie emerged in a black shirt, sleeves folded, somehow still unapproachable. He set a glass of warm water beside me. Drink. Avery. For what? I occupied a groom slot today, fair trade. I looked up. His matter-of-fact tone scattered my heartbeat. Jamie. How did you get here so fast? Futile question. His reply text had read simply here, as if loitering nearby. He studied me a beat. Because I figured you'd call eventually. That's certain. He leaned back. Ethan couldn't fool you forever. I was waiting for you to look back. The room stilled. My fingers tightened around the glass, not fireworks, just a strange tingle where tension had lived. The phone rang. Ethan. I hit speaker. Serena, won't you stop until I'm ruined? Ruin yourself, I said evenly. Did you leak the footage? With that audience, I don't need to. Let's talk. Pull the hashtags and we settle privately. I nearly laughed. Private settlement. So you can explain, or so I can keep cleaning your mess. It was a mistake. A mistake. I parroted. The chats, the video, your vow to deal with me after the wedding, all mistakes. He choked, then shifted attack. Fine, I messed up, but you? You summon Jamie and flaunt him at the altar. Nothing going on? Really? At last, the mudslinging. I smiled. A man who bangs his maid has no right to question my innocence. Second, watch your own back. What? I glanced at Jamie. He handed me a fresh text from him. Vivian's pity post live. Meaning, your precious Vivian just sold you out. I hung up and opened her essay. I'm sorry, I just loved the wrong person. Translation, Serena's too perfect and overbearing. Poor Ethan suffocated, I merely pitied him. She even hinted I'd long known Jamie liked me and staged the whole scandal to destroy them. First comments wavered. Maybe Serena's also at fault. I wasn't surprised. Vivian always recasts herself as the helpless girl who errs for love. I looked at Jamie. Quinn, are the hotel records and transfer slips ready? A faint smile. Whenever you are. Now. 5 minutes later the internet received. 1. Hotel check-in receipt Ethan Vivian, 2 weeks ago. 2. His transfer to her. 3. Her DM selling the lounge video to bloggers. 4. Her voice note. Once the wedding's done she can cry all she wants. Ethan said after the Vance deal closes he'll dump her. No way I stay her sidekick forever. Comment tide flipped instantly. She played the victim, disgusting. She bought the cheating video? Vile. Within 10 minutes Vivian deleted the post. 20 minutes later Ethan issued a 300-word statement admitting emotional mishandling but denying scam, benefits, or media manipulation. Even in surrender he was calculating. Fortunately, I still hadn't thrust the real blade. Looking at something? Jamie asked. I handed him the statement. He skimmed it, snorted, and delivered a concise verdict: old habits die hard. I nodded. So we give him another stab. Where? I looked down, opened my photo gallery, and stopped my fingertip on a screenshot. It was a voice-to-text message Ethan had sent Vivian. Only one line. Her dad's network and investments will all be mine after the wedding. I locked the phone, lifted my gaze to Jamie, and smiled slowly. Right where he'll deny it most. What he fears most is people knowing he came for the Vance fortune, not for love. So I'll make sure everyone learns that he never loved me at all. After Vivian was blown out of the water, Ethan fired off several statements, none of which turned the tide. The media's glare had already swung from the couple to me. Even trolls who had come for spectacle began asking what other stories I was hiding. When Ethan and Vivian started publicly denying everything, swearing they had never colluded, desperately scrubbing themselves clean. Ethan's clarification even carried a pathetic "I've been wronged, everyone misunderstood my good intentions" subplot, trying to sell the idea that he hadn't conned a bride but merely lost control of his feelings. Yet the more he talked, the more his blame-shifting and need for control showed, betraying the panic inside him. Everyone knew such white lies wouldn't last. Instead, people like Jamie and me, silent string pullers in the shadows, could flip the board without breaking a sweat. Ethan's public pleas only let the world see him clearly. He had in fact used marriage as a springboard to siphon value. And I would not let him offload his betrayal onto me again. But this reversal was the real showdown. "What's your move?" Jamie rose from the couch and stepped closer. His eyes stayed cool, yet when they met mine a spark of anticipation flickered. I didn't answer at once. In that instant his presence felt like solid ground. "How?" I said at last. "Too little and the audience feels cheated, too much and I look vengeful." "So what do you do to them?" he asked. "I want every spectator to understand, I stand here today not for revenge, but for my own future." I gave a small smile. "And Vivian's not walking away either." Jamie dipped his chin, already on board. "I'll set it up," he said, turning to the window to fire off orders to his team. He was right, I could leave the rest to him. I settled back on the sofa, watching his fingers fly across the screen, and realized this was probably how my life was meant to look. When the storm hit, someone beside me to take the wind head-on. I stopped clinging to the timid girl I had been and stepped, sure-footed, into a new life. The next few days Cameron unraveled. Ethan tried everything to keep the doors open, but the key partnership talks I torpedoed online sat frozen. Through my channels I pulled his email threads with Cameron's shareholders, proof that he had not only falsified outside books but had staff cook internal reports so he could steer the finances. He had hidden a string of moves targeting the Vance family's investment vehicles. Every last truth surfaced. Jamie's team moved in, Dad filed his suits, and with several shareholders backing regulators began circling Ethan's stake. The Sterlings lost every financial advantage. The battle ended with Ethan and Vivian in ruins. Watching it unfold, I felt something like release. I had never lost anything, I had always owned the power to reshape the game. When the structure finally collapsed, Ethan's last card was to quit the market and file for bankruptcy. Yet every financing deal and operating contract had already snapped. On his wedding day he lost everything he thought belonged to him, face, fortune, the empire he'd schemed to build all evaporated in my hand. Vivian's social accounts and every joint project with Ethan were exposed. Her long post titled "I loved the wrong man" was shredded by netizens. She lost and collapsed. Ethan tried to reach me several times, begging for a private settlement, pleading I call the lawyers off. I never answered. The curtain had fallen. Months later I stood atop the new corporation's tower, gazing down at the city. I hadn't erased the past, I had learned to draw strength from it. "You look different today," Jamie murmured, joining me. "Do I?" I turned, mouth curving. Maybe the wounded girl finally became the woman at the top. He nodded slowly. "You carry your own power." I watched the sunset bleeding across the horizon, a force I had never felt before rising inside me. "Yes. Now I finally know which road is mine." Drenched in crimson, the sun heralded a life that had only just begun. On my birthday I walked into the 7-star hotel wearing bleached denim jeans. My boyfriend, Liam, hurled a bank card at my face in front of everyone. "Take it and get lost, you gold-digging tramp, go eat spicy street stew next door." The guests roared, waiting for me to crumble. I bent, picked the card up, and snapped it in two. Funny, this hotel happens to be mine. 100 executives behind me bowed in unison. "Welcome, President Evelyn, for your inspection." While Liam's face drained of color, I flashed the black card in my hand. "The North American consortium you went on your knees for last year, founder's name is Evelyn." "Oh, and Cameron's largest shareholder just changed, guess who?" His phone rang. The board voted to remove him as CEO immediately. Today is my 24th birthday. The sky hangs gray like a soiled rag thrown over the city. I'm in faded, fraying jeans and a plain white t-shirt that costs less than a cocktail here, walking alone down the mirror-bright corridor of the 7-star Palais d'Or. Beneath me, flooring worth more per tile than gold. Around me, perfumed men and women in silk and diamonds. My presence is a blot of ink spilled across their gilded painting. Eyes stab my back, surprise, appraisal, open disdain. I keep my gaze on the glossy floor and step toward the flower-draped arch. Beyond it waits the birthday banquet Liam prepared. Or rather, the charity performance he believes I need. A waiter blocks me, polite but icy. "Miss, invitation?" Before I answer, a voice slices through. "Let her in, she's my guest." Liam approaches. Tailored charcoal suit, watch glinting like a blade. Handsome, yes, but the smirk curling his mouth ruins the portrait. He rakes me with a glance, fingers tightening on my shoulder as he steers me inside. "Evelyn, how many times have I told you to dress for the occasion?" he murmurs, loud enough for eavesdroppers. "It's not as if you can't afford better." Why the charity case look? A small pain flickers in my chest. I say nothing. Crystal chandeliers pour light, violins ribbon the air. Outside, the city's neon sprawl. I stand among Riversdale's elite like a beggar admitted by mistake. Guests greet Liam, their gaze sliding to me with amusement. I catch whispers, "So that's his latest, quite the budget choice," and stifled giggles follow. Each correction, Liam offers how to hold a glass, which champagne matches caviar, draws another ripple of laughter. My cheeks ache from the smile I maintain, nails dig crescents into my palms to keep the hurt down. What did I want from him? Mercy disguised as affection? A love built on my own humiliation? Maybe it's time to close the account. Halfway through the party, the pink-clad cousin sachets over, brandishing a Tiffany box. "For Evelyn," she chirps, so she can own something worthy of a banquet. Liam takes the box, flicks it into my hand, then raises a gold bank card for the room to see. "Evelyn's adorable, so frugal," he declares through the microphone. "But stick with me and those tight days are over." He flicks his wrist, the card whistles through the air and smacks my cheek, edge stinging. "Take it and roll, babe. A gold digger like you should be thrilled, should keep you in instant noodles and spicy street stew next door." Laughter detonates. Phones lift. The room spins. I bend slowly, retrieve the card, and under 1,000 staring eyes, snap it clean. "Liam," I say, voice calm, cold, "you're mistaken about a few things." I sweep the guests, then pin him. "First, this palais door? It's mine." The inner doors glide open, a phalanx of 100 executives files in and bows. "Welcome, President Evelyn, for your inspection." Silence falls so complete the chandeliers might be ringing. Blood drains from Liam's face, his smug mask shatters. "You thought I insisted on splitting bills because I'm poor?" I step closer. "Thought I wear cheap denim because I can't buy couture? Thought I refused your gifts out of coyness?" I produce a slim black card, platinum-edged, centered with an embossed S. "Last year you flew to New York and begged KS Capital for salvation. Their founder's name is Evelyn too." His phone blares. Board's voice leaks from the earpiece. "KS now holds 51% of Cameron, Liam is ousted." I watch him answer, watch the final color leave his cheeks. "Maybe pick up," I whisper. "They're calling to congratulate you on being fired." Removed. Effective immediately. Cameron has changed hands, and the mastermind behind it all was none other than Evelyn, the same woman Liam had just humiliated in public, branding her a gold-digging opportunist, the true owner of KS Capital, the fund he had begged for a crumb of help from only days earlier. The reversal was too theatrical, too brutal, too face-slapping. Every eye in the room snapped back to me. But this time there was no contempt, no sneering, only bottomless awe, dread, and a touch of absurdity. They stared as though I were a deity who had risen from the dust to hold their fates in my palm. Liam's hand was still frozen in mid-air, clutching the phone. The device slipped from his numb fingers and clattered to the marble, the screen spiderwebbing like the ruins of his life and pride. He stood there blankly, pupils hollow, complexion ash-gray. His expensive jacket was blotched with wine, hair disheveled, no trace left of the cocky sterling air, the Cameron CEO. He looked a penniless beggar on the very stage he had built to flaunt and humiliate, now a silent tribunal of ridicule. I walked toward him, heels striking the polished floor, crisp, deliberate clicks, each one a stomp on his heart. I bent, retrieved the two snapped halves of the gold card, and dangled them before his eyes. "Liam," I said softly, voice carrying the weight of a mountain, "just now you claimed the money on this card could keep a gold digger like me comfortable for a while." I laughed lightly, flicked the broken pieces into a nearby trash can. Tell me, I lifted my gaze, sweeping the sumptuous 7-star hotel, the guests cowering like mute quail, then returning to his bloodless face, enunciating every word. Which of us looks the gold digger now? Which of us is pitiful? Liam jerked his head up, bloodshot eyes like a cornered beast, rasping, Why? Evelyn, why? You're swimming in money, why hide it? Why lie to me? Were you scheming from day one? Plotting against my family? His accusations carried a ludicrous self-righteousness, as if he were the injured party. I regarded his hysteria, my heart icebound. Lie to you? I echoed, lips curving in a mocking arc. For 2 years I told you, over and over, money means nothing to me, I wanted something real. I refused your pricey gifts, kept my own spending habits. Wasn't that obvious enough? I stepped closer, gaze a blade aimed at his core, let arrogance and prejudice blind you. You insisted a woman unmoved by your wealth must be poor, insecure, playing hard to get. You savored crushing others with cash, never once tried to see the real me, to respect my choices, my values. What you loved wasn't Evelyn the person, I declared, voice ringing like steel. You loved the Cinderella you imagined, the backdrop that flattered your ego. When that backdrop became a princess you couldn't Alex, a queen who could decide your life or death, you felt conned, betrayed. I shook my head, pity pooling in my eyes. Liam, the only one who schemed against you was your own vanity, narrowness, and stupidity. Those words, a final thunderbolt, extinguished the last light in his gaze. He staggered back, muttering, No, that's not I. But no one cared to listen anymore. I turned away, sparing him not another glance. To the knot of platinum badge executives waiting behind me, chief among them Mr. James, president of Bowery Asia, I inclined my head. James stepped forward at once, voice steady. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's unpleasantness has disturbed your evening. Ms. Sterling instructs us to comp every guest's bill by way of apology. The banquet is concluded, please exit in order. Security, kindly assist Rowan out. That last word, assist, carried an exquisite subtext. 2 tall, stone-faced guards moved in, courteously but inexorably herding the dazed Liam away. He didn't resist, lacked the strength, a walking corpse dragged from the execution ground he himself had erected. Guests filed out in eerie silence, no one daring raised voices. Each who passed me lowered their head or offered a fawning smile. I remained, gazing at the glittering city beyond the glass. In its reflection I saw myself, same bleached denim, same tee, but my aura had transformed. My phone buzzed. A message from my assistant, Ms. Sterling, the Cameron ownership change and dismissal notice are public, media handling set. I pocketed the phone, expression unreadable. The game had only begun. Liam, did you think it ended here? Every humiliation you hurled, every sneer at the name Evelyn I'll reclaim with interest. After tonight, this 7-star hotel will mark the tombstone of your gilded dreams, the prologue to your ridicule. And I, Evelyn, will take back what is mine, including the dignity you trampled. The guests all but fled Bowery Hotel. The banquet hall, once a symbol of opulence, lay empty, soundless. The air still hinted at champagne sweetness, food aroma, and the intangible, suffocating aura of power. Crystal chandeliers blazed over the marble floor littered with toppled glass shards, and 2 snapped gold card halves, like dead insects beside the trash, abandoned. Staff cleaned with drilled efficiency, swift and soft, heads low, afraid to glance at me. Their eyes brimmed with awe, a premonition of the tempest about to sweep the city. Mr. James stood a respectful distance behind, poised to serve yet careful not to intrude. James, I called, voice cool in the cavernous hall. Ms. Sterling, your orders. He stepped half-pace forward, bowing slightly. No rumor damaging to Boris brand is to leave this building, I said, eyes still on the traffic below, tone leaving no margin. Internal gag order. As for the guests, you know the drill. Understood, Ms. Sterling. We'll steer media and calm guests, ensure narrative favors us. Phones that shot improper footage will be spoken to, all images erased. I nodded. Capital solves what money can solve. After tonight, no one in this city's upper crust will be foolish enough to challenge KS Capital or Bowery Group. Cameron. I paused. Announcement released. Our team has moved in, taking custody of data to ensure smooth transition, James reported evenly. Liam was escorted out. Sources say his broken, shattered. A soft laugh escaped me. So fragile. And he dared swing a blade at me. For 2 years his casual boasts, patronizing advice, party innuendos that I was Alex. Last night's ultimate insult, what backed them was merely his heir title and wallet he thought could crush me. Strip that brittle shell, expose the hollow within, and collapse is inevitable. But far from enough. I want him living forever in tonight's shadow, every future attempt at resurgence haunted by this shame, tasting true despair. Have him watched, I ordered. Find every deal he leveraged with Cameron's resources, every contact. I want total blockade. Comprehension flickered in James's eyes. Yes, Ms. Sterling. Uproot weeds to the last fiber, strike a snake at its heart. Once I strike, no breathing room, that is business, that is Evelyn's creed. 2 years of low-profile poverty had been fatigue of family halos, a wish to taste ordinary life and find love unmixed with assets. Reality slapped me awake. Since the commoner mask is torn, Evelyn's true visage can step into the light. I turned to leave this nauseating place. Your car is ready, Ms. Sterling, James offered. I waved him off. I'll walk. To the shock of James and the executives, I, still in the faded jeans and tee that clashed with seven-star splendor, walked alone out of the gilded doors. Night wind, cool on my face, carried away the stench of the banquet hall. Neon pulsed, traffic roared. I strolled the sidewalk like any other pedestrian. No one could guess this college grad-looking girl had just toppled an empire in the palace behind me. My phone vibrated again, a video call. The ice on my face cracked into a genuine warm smile. I answered. A vigorous elderly man appeared, framed by a classical study. Grandpa, I murmured. Evelyn, his strong voice rang with concern. How was the birthday? Word is you made quite the bang. KS Capital's intelligence net unsurprising. A summary of the Bowery showdown must have reached him. Handled some private matters, I said. Also tidied house. He chuckled, eyes sharp. That Sterling boy. Told you, warped mind, petty scope, unworthy. Yet you insisted on tasting ordinary love. Hit the wall, ready to turn back. A soft I didn't argue, his judgment is lethal. When I insisted on dating Liam he'd only warned, go, trip once, then you'll know why I say match equals match. Equals in fortune, horizon, upbringing. Good you've turned. He sounded pleased. A daughter of our house bends to no one. Play as you like, the empire your dad and I left can absorb it. Need backup, just say. Morgan, I've got this, I answered, resolute. Having unmasked myself, I'll clean my mess my way and teach certain people who Evelyn is. Fine. Call if necessary. He nodded, reminded me to rest, and hung up. I pocketed the phone and inhaled the cool night. Exposure is mere prelude. Next may come Liam's collapse, counterstrike, should any capacity remain, market upheaval, and hordes of curious, wary, or climbing eyes. None of that matters. From tonight, the cautious Cinderella guarding her lover's fragile pride is dead. I am heir to KS Capital, de facto owner of Bowery Hotel Group, the woman who can decide a dynasty's fate with a nod, Ms. Sterling. I stopped at the spicy hot soup stall Liam once sneered was beneath me. Bright lights, billowing steam, chilly fragrance, working kids laughed over cheap dinners. I pushed in. Pretty girl, table for how many? What'll you have? The proprietress sang. Corner table. I scanned the simple board and smiled. Spicy hot soup, mild heat, double greens. Coming up. Soon a bowl of crimson, gurgling soup arrived. I lifted chopsticks, eating slowly. Good, honest, comforting fire, the taste of real life. As for Liam and his tinsel world, I stared into the rising steam, eyes icing over. Game on. The next morning, sunlight poured through the panoramic windows of Bowery's presidential suite onto Italian carpet. I gazed down at the city shaking off sleep. Overnight, every shard of last night's battlefield had been erased. The birthday banquet might never have happened except the storm was already roaring outward. Fresh financials and tabloids lay on the coffee table, headlines predictable. Assistant Emily entered, tablet in manicured hands, chic suit unable to hide her excitement. Morning, Ms. Sterling. Public opinion briefing plus urgent files. I took the tablet, carefully curated front pages and hot search terms. Blockbuster. Camera in hands, shadow giant KS Capital emerges. Birthday banquet turns trap? Sterling heir axed after insulting mystery billionaire. Evelyn. Tycoon's granddaughter hid fortune, love gone wrong, epic revenge. On site at 7-star gala. Card snapped, XX bode too wild for fiction. Online comment sections exploded. 5 of 10 hot topics carried red boom tags. Cameron shares opened limit down, Emily added. Panic selling, partners reassessing, banks demanding loan recalls. I skimmed the green vertical line, wealth evaporating by the billion. Our Cameron stake, stealth buy cost basis leaves huge profit even at, more expected. We hold control assets ready for carve-up. Meeting requests, city leaders, chamber chairs, every notable family practically queuing. Filter them, I said. Draft priorities. The sweet line rang. Emily lifted the receiver, then muted it. Jordan, sounds frantic. I accepted. Ms. Sterling. Please, this is Jordan. Rowan. Speak. All our fault. I failed as a father, spare us. Name your price. We'll kick Liam out, make him kneel. Transfer shares cheap, just leave us a way out. Business is business, I cut in. KS's acquisition is legal. As for Liam, I smiled thinly. When he tastes life as the penniless scavenger he mocked, when even spicy hot soup is a luxury, maybe I'll consider mercy. I hung up. Too late for please. I opened a fresh file. Call an Asia leadership call this afternoon, we draft Cameron's dismemberment. Across town, Dawn found a cheap apartment reeking of despair. Liam huddled on a sagging sofa, still in the stained designer suit. Empty bottles and crumpled newspapers carpeted the floor, front page Ellis and Axed swam before his eyes. 2 days, 48 hours, and his universe had inverted. CEO title stripped, accounts frozen, limited edition supercar towed for debt. Friends' numbers dead or diverting to voicemail, then blacklisted. Social feeds a bonfire of mockery, rivals danced on Cameron's corpse. For the first time he tasted the idiom, when the tree falls, monkeys scatter. Worst, Evelyn. The woman he'd regarded as a decorative accessory was now an apex predator he must and fear. He remembered boasting of Cameron's deals, gifting jewelry she serenely rejected, hinting she was Alex while she watched with what must have been the pity reserved for clowns. A metallic tang filled his mouth, he coughed, tasting blood, rage, shame, terror shredding his body. No, he would not accept defeat. He was Liam, Sterling heir. There had to be a lifeline. Father, Jordan must still have hidden cards, old allies. He scrambled for his cracked phone and dialed. A frosty female voice answered, his father's secretary. Rowan is occupied. He asks you stay out of trouble. The family may not shield you next time. Shield? When did he ever? Your apartment faces foreclosure tomorrow. Goodbye. Click. Dial tone. Beep, beep, beep. It sounded like a funeral dirge played just for him. Liam collapsed on the floor, the phone slipping from his hand. The last sliver of hope had finally died. Even his father had abandoned him. Hunger scorched his stomach like live coals. He hadn't touched food or water since yesterday. All that remained in his wallet were a few crumpled singles, barely enough for takeout. He hauled himself up, staggered out of the mold-smelling crash pad. He needed food, needed booze to numb the pain. Afternoon sun knifed into his eyes, pedestrians hurried past, none sparing a glance for the disheveled man with vacant pupils. At the corner bodega he spent his last cash on the cheapest loaf of bread and a half-pint of rotgut vodka. Stepping out, instinct tugged him toward the 400-a-head sushi bar across the street. 1 foot extended, he froze. The plate glass mirrored his wrecked reflection and the waiter's wary, contemptuous stares. He jerked back as if burned, retreated to the grimy curb, slid down the cold brick wall, tore open the stiff bread and washed it down with bites of peppery liquor. The coarse crumbs scraped his throat, the paint-thinner alcohol flared in his gut. The pampered heir who once refused anything short of Michelin star fare was reduced to gumming street-level calories. The plunge and humiliation nearly drove him insane. Then tires squealed beside him. A familiar black Bentley stopped at the curb. The door swung open. First emerged a pair of mirror-polished Italian Oxfords, then the crease of immaculate trousers. Liam lifted his head, dull eyes blazing to life. It was Sam, once one of his best brothers. Though the sterling fortune no longer rivaled the Hawthorne family at its peak, it was still old money. Sam couldn't know what had happened, right? He had to be here for him, he had to help. Sam. Liam crawled forward, clutched Sam's sleeve, babbling, "You came. I knew you would. Help me. Right now Sam wrinkled his nose, wrenched free, disgust written across his face. He flicked imaginary dirt from the cuff Liam had touched. "Liam? What the hell happened to you?" Sam's tone dripped revulsion. "I'm not here for you. I'm picking someone up." As the words left his mouth, a petite, trendily dressed girl stepped out of the microgallery next door, a rising painter Sam was hotly pursuing. Seeing Liam's wreckage, she gasped. "Sam, who?" Sam morphed into solicitous boyfriend, arm encircling her waist. "Oh, some nobody. Used to be from that Hawthorne family, whatever. Let's not spoil the mood. Car's ready, we'll miss the auction." Nobody, spoil the mood. Ice picks, those words, stabbing the last wall around Liam's heart. He watched Sam ease her into the Bentley, slide in after, never once glancing back. The black car roared off, exhaust spraying his face. Liam froze, half-eaten bread still in hand, a clown discarded by the world. Passers-by whispered and pointed. "Isn't that the Hawthorne heir? Got what he deserved, lost everything. Stay away, looks deranged." The buzzing gnawed his ears. "Heir." He clutched his head, howled, hurled bread and bottle to the pavement, slumped against the wall, face buried in his knees. Shame, despair, rage, terror, vipers devouring his heart. He had plummeted from the clouds straight into the saw. And this was only the beginning. Evelyn. The name etched itself into his marrow like a curse. 1 week later, City Arts Center. A high-profile charity auction dinner, bankrolled by KS Capital's foundation, was underway. Power brokers, starlets, philanthropists glittered along the red carpet, camera flashes popped like fireworks. This would be my first public appearance since reclaiming my identity, nothing symbolic about it. 90 minutes before kickoff, my styling squad had commandeered the penthouse suite at the Bower. When the last brushstroke of highlighter landed, even seen it all, Emily inhaled. I'd vetoed the usual couture confection and chosen Elie Saab's ready-to-wear, an almost severe column of midnight blue silk. No extraneous sparkle, the cut and the liquid drape did all the talking. Around my throat hung a whisper-weight diamond pendant that had belonged to my mother. Hair knotted low, a few strands left free, makeup featherlight. Composed sovereignty paired with a 20-something freshness. "Miss Sterling, it's time," Emily murmured. I lifted a silver Menorgia and exited. The stretched Lincoln slid to the Arts Center curb. The moment my Jimmy Choo touched crimson, a hush rippled outward. Every lens, every eye swung to me. Awe, envy, calculation gusted in invisible currents. Chin at a polite tilt, smile cool, I advanced toward the step and repeat flanked by KSVPs. "Miss Sterling, over here. Any comment on Cameron's future? Why this charity tonight?" I offered no words, only angles for the cameras, then glided into the hall. Inside, chandeliers dripped crystal over black ties and couture gowns. Conversations faltered, gazes tracked me like radar. Upstarts shoved business cards at my security, who deflected with velvet ruthlessness. Target locked, head table. Yet in my peripheral vision, a spectre flickered. Liam. He hovered near the service corridor, suit old but pressed, swimming on his diminished frame. One hand gripped champagne, knuckles white, eyes darted, desperate for anyone, to acknowledge him. Former courtiers pivoted the instant he neared. When the tile supply parvenu he once snubbed brushed him off, the cut direct was complete. He sensed my stare and spun. Color fled his face, the flute trembled, spilling bubbly over his cuff. Terror, shame, and a dog's silent plea collided in his eyes. His lips parted, no sound, then a reflexive backward stagger. I regarded him as one might a smudge on the carpet, expression blank, and glided on. Indifference, sharper than ridicule, flayed him alive. Dinner unfolded, speeches, applause, videos of smiling children while I monitored the auction ledger. KS needed to set the tempo. Bidding flew, gavels cracked. When I tripled the reserve on a contemporary canvas funding rural art programs, applause thundered, proof of muscle and magnanimity. During the networking interlude, I rose to meet 3 pre-cleared titans. Liam lurched into my path. Some toxic cocktail of desperation and gin had melted his last veneer. Sclera crimson, breath rancid, he blocked me, voice cracking. Evelyn. Haven't you had enough? Silence detonated. Music stopped mid-measure, every guest swiveled. Guards stepped forward, I lifted one finger. Let him sing. He took my silence as a lifeline or the final stage of collapse, closing the gap, sputtering in a register loud enough for witnesses. I was blind, I was trash. You slapped me, punished me, Cameron is ruins, I'm the city punchline. Isn't that sufficient? Veins bulged in his temples, spittle flecked. Tell me when you'll stop. You want me on my knees. His legs buckled, he actually began to kneel. Gasps hissed around the room. The heir of the Hawthorne family kneeling to Evelyn? Headline gold. Before fabric kissed marble I spoke, voice low but carrying Arctic authority. Liam, kneeling changes nothing. He froze, 1 knee millimeters off the ground, a grotesque statue. I held his gaze, winter calm. Your apology is worthless. Your ruin is self-inflicted. Your begging only makes you pitiful. I dipped 2 inches closer, murmuring for him alone, dry cleaning bill on that suit? Still unpaid. And how exactly did you crash an invitation-only event? Shall I have security verify your RSVP? He convulsed, last drop of blood draining from his face, then collapsed in a heap, not a penitent knight but so much trash. Guards hoisted him under the arms, dragged him out noiselessly. I smoothed an imagined wrinkle, lifted a cordial smile to the stunned audience, and continued to my rendezvous. The quartet resumed, clatter and chatter swallowed the vacuum he'd left, though everyone now carried a new datum. The city had changed owners tonight, the old guard was expired, a cautionary anecdote. Morning headlines blared 2 stories. 1. KS Gala smashes records Evelyn, philanthropic prodigy. 2. Liam's public breakdown, begging, then booted. Ingrid. The court of public opinion sentenced Liam and Cameron to eternal punchline status. Cameron's stock free fell as KS teams audited, carved, and repackaged the tatters. Phone calls of "we're re-evaluating partnerships" clogged Jordan's line. I never asked after Liam again. Rumor had him escorted out of a cement yard after brawling with the foreman, then drifting toward the border with drifters of no return. Paparazzi shots, ragged beard, dead eyes, provoked more shrugs than outrage. My orbit shifted to the top-floor area of KS Capital, glass walls surveying the grid below. Calendars overflowed with diligence meetings, carve-outs, roadshows. I relished it. Commanding the chessboard beat hiding behind a fake resume and a lying fiancé. The sterling chromosome thrived on salt spray turmoil. Grandfather video-called from the yacht at sunset, saw the spreadsheets glowing behind me, and simply nodded. When I hit impasses, he'd spin a sailing anecdote that mapped to leveraged buyouts. Invitations flooded in heirs bearing Birkins, patriarchs pitching mergers of the genomic kind, influencers wielding roses. Polite decline, every one. I no longer needed a husband to validate my seat. One golden afternoon I drove to a country stable. Stress relief, gallop until lungs burn. I chose the resident hellraiser, a blood bay gelding named Tempest. We shot across emerald turf, sky wide, wind scouring doubt. As we cooled down, a mellow baritone drifted over. Evelyn? Small world. I reined in. 10 yards away stood Iris, white Oxford, khakis, architect's grin. His family collected libraries instead of headlines, and he designed museums that floated like islands. Didn't know you rode, he said, admiring Tempest's wet flank. He usually dumps hedge fund cowboys for sport. Hobby, I replied, dismounting. We strolled, chatting fillies and a Venice Biennale pavilion. He never mentioned Liam or Cameron, treating the scandal like vapor. Equal footing, refreshing. When we parted, he handed me a linen card, just his name and a studio landline. I keep irregular hours. If you're ever out here again, coffee's on me. I slid the card into my boot cuff, watched him amble off. Maybe the next chapter could hold scenery I actually chose. Colette. Half a year had slipped past since my birthday bash reset the city's social tectonics. Autumn sun slanted through KS headquarters as Emily delivered the terminal report on Cameron, now Sterling Hawthorne Group. All toxic assets divested, core unit streamlined, new execs installed. Q3 profit up 230% versus baseline, she recited, pride poking through the corporate cadence. New energy park deal with the city sealed, groundbreaking slated for next spring. Expected, but satisfying. The lose. Jordan and wife liquidated everything, even the ancestral house. Rumor puts them in some southern backwater with distant cousins, she said, indifferent. Liam, she tapped her tablet. 3 months ago a foreman clobbered him at a day labor depot. After that, poof, vanished toward the border with undocumented drifters. Vanished. The tyrant crown prince erased from the map, cause and effect wearing destiny's mask. Close the file, I said. Silence reclaimed the office. I surveyed the skyline that had watched me crawl and then saw. My phone pinged, a snapshot of carnelian dusk spilling over rooftops. Iris, sunset tonight recalled your favorite view. Come see it from the studio sometime? I answered, deal. I no longer needed to masquerade as Taylor, the broke fiancé, or as Evelyn the Avenger. I was simply Evelyn, heir, builder, woman, free agent. Fortune is my shield, but choices are my bones. Night glittered alive below. I grabbed my coat. Driver, the stables. I wanted to feel wind again, speed that belonged to me. Thank you for listening. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this story? If it captivated you, like, share, and drop your thoughts below. New episodes await your subscription. See you next time.